Welcome to Preaching Innovation Lab, a project of the Kerygma Initiative here at Palmer Theological Seminary. This is a monthly series of short interviews featuring authors of recent books on preaching, books we believe can inspire preachers to think afresh about the theory and the practice of preaching. I'm Dr. David Stark, Director of the Kerygma Initiative and instructor of Homiletics at Palmer. Today, we are excited to meet with Dr. Sarah Travis. Sarah Travis is Associate Professor and Ewart Chair in the Practice of Ministry and Faith Formation at Knox College at the Toronto School of Theology, which is at the University of Toronto. She is an ordained minister of the Presbyterian Church in Canada and author of several books, including Decolonizing Preaching, The Pulpit as Postcolonial Space, Metamorphosis, Preaching After Christendom, Unspeakable, Preaching and Trauma-Informed Theology, and Unsettling Worship, Reforming Liturgy for Right Relations with Indigenous Communities. Welcome, Dr. Travis.
Hi, it's so great to be here.
It is so good to spend time with you today. As you know, today we are discussing your book, your newest book, Remembering the Body, Preaching that Affirms Sexuality. And this is such a helpful resource and so insightful. I really enjoyed reading it. Thank you so much for your work. I'm looking forward to talking with you about it. And I want to jump in actually and start really with the title. As the main title for your book indicates, you assert that it is important for preachers to remember the body. Your approach examines theological, ecclesial, and really interestingly to me, because I don't think I've thought about it enough, the physical aspects of preaching and listening to preaching. I wonder if you might speak just a little bit. What do you think preaching has missed by forgetting the body? And how might preaching become more vital by remembering the physical body?
Thank you for a great question. I'm a Presbyterian, and that means I don't have a body. I only have a brain, at least in worship. That we are so focused on the intellect, and I think that's part of what this book is trying to address is that overemphasis on intellect against all other ways of knowing. And there's a sense in which through our bodies we know things. It is a way of knowing. And so we listen with our bodies. And when we come into the worship space, we come as bodies. And so to ignore that is to ignore really the foundation of who people are and what makes them who they are. So this is a funny thing that I talk about in all my classes. I'm always talking about preaching being embodied and students need to pay attention to this. And then I tell them, and I have to confess that I'm really bad at it. Because so many of us have trouble connecting to our bodies because we've only been taught to connect intellectually. Yeah. I would also say that we know about trouble in our bodies. Things like trauma really rest in our bodies. And so if we are ignoring that, we're ignoring something really significant that people are carrying around.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you naming that. And maybe this is a good time for me to mention how helpful your previous book on trauma has been, Unspeakable. I've used it in my classes, and just to think about the way trauma is carried in the body. I really appreciate your work on that as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
One of the things I deeply appreciate about this book, your newest book, is how you chart a path for churches and denominations that have struggled and often failed to affirm LGBTQ plus people. I'm United Methodist, so this resonates with the work needed in our denomination. I wonder if you just might speak for a second about What kinds of things might preaching do to help Christians move toward affirmation, healing, and reconciliation with LGBTQ plus communities?
I think that one of the things that preaching can do is name the harm that has been done, to LGBTQ communities and others, and that involves confession because the church has done harm to itself. I argue in this book that it's cut off, it's dismembered part of its own body. And so to name that, and one of the reasons it's important to name it is I don't think people know this. I don't think people set out to hurt others when they're being exclusive. I think they are just, they don't know. They don't know the harm that's being caused. And so to name it is to open it. It's to show the wound. It's to acknowledge that it's there. So I mean, I think any kind of healing and reconciliation begins with that acknowledgement, um,
Yeah.
including this one. Um, but it doesn't stop there. And I don't know which book I talk about this in, but the importance of the assurance of pardon, the importance in my tradition of standing up after the prayer of confession and saying you are forgiven. That really matters, and then you're enabled to cast an alternative vision for what a community might look like.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think you talk about that in this book as one of the helpful steps for preachers to remember and engage. I thought that was
Mhm.
really wonderful. Um, and just to name one other thing, I really appreciate the way you wrestled personally with your not just your denomination or your churches, but your own involvement. Or maybe you wish that you had been more of an advocate, and that really resonated with me. Like I appreciated the confession and the assurance, that you're engaging in your own life too.
And then there was also a stage when I realized that there were reasons why I didn't do the work before, and
Mhm.
I realized that those people that did are so tired now. And so I'm kind of glad that I didn't, because I have a fresh wave of energy now, coming into the conversation a little bit late, but, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's sort of another way of thinking of the body of Christ.
Yes.
All of us sort of coming and offering our own gifts and presents and at different times. So,
Mhm.
um, thank you for that. In the last chapters of your book, you reflect on the contours of preaching that affirms, and here you're really getting into what does this look like? Um,
Mhm.
how might our homiletic change and our
Yeah.
hermeneutics too, I guess. And what struck me is that what you propose is not some niche homiletic that's just focused on one tiny little topic or one Sunday a year or something, but on a homiletic that affirms and serves the entire community throughout the whole year. Um, so I wanted to ask you if you could just speak a little bit about how does affirmation of physical bodies and or sexuality help us to think about the theological groundings for preaching while also exploring innovative possibilities
Mhm.
and practices of preaching.
Mhm. Um, as I was preparing to speak to you today, I was thinking about the whole idea of belonging. And I think one of the things this book does is make a case for belonging as a goal of preaching. That that we're actually trying to heal and create communities of real bodies.
Yeah,
Um, and um and I think that means we bring ourselves in all our fullness, including our sexualities, our physicalness, our intellectual capacity, and our disagreements and our annoyances and our angers and our traumas. So we actually come as whole people. And what kind of preaching does that require? And it makes me think there are parts that people don't want to talk about. And how do we decide what gets talked about and what doesn't? Um, but I think this idea that preaching is healing work. I mean, many people have talked about that. Um, but I do think it is important to not view this kind of preaching as something that happens occasionally or in regard to a particular community, but yes, it is for everyone, and
Yeah.
it's designed to shape community life.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate that. And there's so many things that I want to pull out of this book and talk to you about right now. Uh, but we're out of time. So let me just say thank you so much, Dr. Travis, for offering your time and your wisdom today. I really enjoyed talking with you.
So great to talk to you. Thank you.
And viewers, if like me, you wish that we had more time with Dr. Travis, let me encourage you to pick up a copy of her book today, Remembering the Body, Preaching That Affirms Sexuality. Thank you again, Dr. Travis, and thank you all for joining us for this episode of Preaching Innovation Lab. We hope today's conversation sparked new ideas and fresh energy for your preaching ministry. Until next time, grace and peace.